What has caused the significant rise of mental health in youth today? What was behind it all? I've always been a people watcher. My background has been in customer services, then with youth, and later to work with people to help them recover from mental health issues and drugs and alcohol. So I've considerable experience in this matter. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about 3 key pointers about youth mental health, the last of which is the most important. I recommend you remain listening or watching this podcast until the end. So from my own point of view, and also from the research I've done, let's look at what's really driving this problem with mental health from youth that carries on into adulthood. My personal experience of that has been significant through most of my life. Now, the first issue we're going to look at here, ironically, is the digital world. We now know that social media is a high priority for young people in particular. There are arguments about it that say that it's either good or that it's bad. But I think it's more than just a binary issue. While social media is a great way for us all to connect, particularly the youth, there are some key issues around it. A landmark survey conducted by the Royal Society for Public Health in the UK found that platforms like Instagram and Snapchat were associated with increased feelings of depression, anxiety, poor body image and loneliness among young people aged 14 to 24. It's not just about the content itself, but the constant comparison and the social pressures. I can ask you honestly, is that something you've experienced yourselves? I can even confess to actually having those feelings myself, having been on social media. That constant sight of seeing people off on their holidays, enjoying themselves, sharing their experience. There were times when I thought, crikey, I wish I could afford a nice, expensive holiday. Dr. Catherine Steiner-Adair, a clinical psychologist and author of The Big Disconnect, explains teens miss out on crucial non-verbal cues when communicating online, which can exacerbate societal anxiety. She notes that healthy self-esteem comes from consolidating who you are, but social media can encourage the creation of multiple, often inauthentic identities, making it harder for young people to feel good about themselves. The Child Mind Institute points to the hyper-connected nature of digital life, so it's no surprise that that is a place for hyper-anxiety to breed. I'd also add that teenagers today in 2025 had grown up during the COVID years. Those couple of years were probably vital to those young people's being able to communicate with their peers, which didn't really happen in an authentic way that the rest of us all grew up with. As stated, there's a need for communication to be authentic, to be person to person. It needs all the non-verbal indicators. It taps into that hidden sense of being close in proximity to the person that you're talking to or you're interacting with. That's more than just talking over the telephone or talking over the internet. So moving on to point 2, let's look at the economic pressures that we have in the world today. A recent report by the Youth Futures Foundation and researchers from the University of Manchester and UCL shed light on the economic drivers of the youth mental health crisis. They found that a significant proportion of the rise in young people not in education, employment or training, also known as NEET, is due to the surge in long-term sickness, with mental health conditions being the most prevalent cause. The report specifically highlights affordability pressures, in particular housing and employment precarity, as a major contributing factors. It's a stark reminder that mental health is not just a psychological issue, but also deeply intertwined with a young person's lived environment and financial security. When the basic needs for stability and a sense of future are under threat, it's no surprise that mental well-being suffers. The ESRC Centre for Society and Mental Health at King's College London also conducts ongoing research into the link between economic shifts, such as the cost of living crisis, and their impact on mental health. So there's 2 key factors around the issues around mental health for young people. And those 2 items in some ways clash in how we are able to deal with and solve the problems that are ongoing and seem to have been there for a long time, and these days only seem to be getting worse. I sometimes whether the constant reliance on modern technology these days is a core factor into preventing us having free thoughts? Does it in fact prevent creativity in us? It's kind of ironic, isn't it, that without the technology we're not able to share these ideas out to more people in the world. Those of you that have seen my other podcasts, I talk an awful lot about communication, how to communicate effectively. This is particularly important in regard to young people, because as older people we tend to think we've got all the experience in the world and that we know best. And often young people feel that way as well. The point is we need to find a way that we can communicate properly and effectively with mutual respect of opinions. Just because a person is young, it doesn't mean that they can't have creative ideas. I think of Greta Thunberg, who in the recent years has really provided us with an opportunity to really consider what we think we know. It's really interesting how she's managed to make a success on the major stage of the world, being able to talk out to people, to leaders, and to challenge what they think is best for us. Just because she's a young person doesn't mean that she's not worth listening to or worth considering her opinions. I ask the question, those that disagree with Greta Thunberg, have they really considered whether they actually have thought about what she's stating? Or are those people that are just criticising her just because she's a young person? Let's face it, she has her own life, she has her own experience, and that's worthy of listening to. And finally, I'm going to refer to point 3. For me, this is the most significant and the most important point. It's the significant pressure that society puts on young people to learn, to go to school and to have a successful academic career. Now, I'm not denying that education isn't important. Education is needed in order for us to be able to communicate properly. I think back to the 1990s and the Tony Blair government, who went on about education, education, education. I personally think that with hindsight, for many people this got misinterpreted. It very much led to the nature of schools needing to perform and show that they get results from their students. I believe it also took away the ability for young people to express their individuality. Many of the creative activities in schooling resulted in being underfunded. From my own point of view, in the 1970s when growing up, I was fortunate enough to be able to get free tutoring to learn to play a brass instrument. The school I went to, whilst it was a school of hard knocks, it also actually clearly promoted a lot of the arts. But even in those days, there was still that push to get exam results. It seemed to be that's all that really mattered. I can remember being told that without good exam grades, life would be wasted. That's just so wrong. Let's face it, how many entrepreneurs do we know of in the world that have made their success not out of having exam results, but actually out of their own talent, their ability to be free thinking and to be creative? This elephant in the room for many young people, the performance culture, from academic life to competitive extracurriculars. The pressure to constantly perform and achieve is relentless. The culture can lead to what's known as academic burnout, a state of emotional exhaustion, cynicism, and a sense of inefficiency regarding schoolwork. That also goes on into work life as well. Pressure to perform constantly. It's what really does desperately cause burnout, and it's something I've personally experienced. Research published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology has repeatedly shown that excessive academic stress is a strong predictor of academic burnout in adolescence. This is not just about a few bad grades, it's about a deep, prolonged state of negative feelings towards academic tasks that drains students' energy and undermines their motivation, as defined by researchers like Christina Maslach, a pioneer in burnout research. The findings suggest that focusing solely on academic achievement without addressing the psychological roots of burnout is an ineffective approach. We must start to recognise that we are all worthy and all have a separate intelligence. That needs understanding and needs nurturing. I believe that we need to get away from a one-size-fits-all style of educating people. Celebrate the natural talents that young people have. That essentially will lead to a happier life for people. Surely that will help to improve mental health. It's clear to me that these 3 factors, social media, economic insecurity, and performance culture, don't just exist in a vacuum. There's a danger that they reinforce each other. It becomes almost like a perfect storm, a situation that leaves a generation feeling overwhelmed. So the conversation around youth mental health is complex. We need to better understand what really drives it. Whilst there are plans for changes in the digital world for young people, this really needs to be fully understood. We need to avoid these laws and rules from being misinterpreted, which frequently happens. We need a better education system, a system that celebrates a broad spectrum of talents and abilities. In my view, education should not be target driven in the way that it has been in the last few years. It's counterproductive. It causes mission drift. It becomes about the school's performance rather than the student's performance. Thank you for watching and listening. Wishing you peace from Peace Unplugged.